I told my wife, I was like, there's gonna be an Amazon package arrive. It's gonna be my jean shorts. She was like, oh no, you didn't. I was like, oh yeah, I did. The Denton Desert. I mean, I love the Denton Desert theme right now. But I think our turnover celebration's probably the best in all of college football.
What is your outlook on retaining, your best coaches, including one that's on, 5-0 streak right now?
All right. Yeah, no problem. Testing 1, 2, 3. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
All right. Sorry for that long.
Hey, no, we're ready.
I appreciate it.
Ready to roll.
So the whole point of the interview I wanted to do was that obviously you've been super responsive online, to North Texas fans, and that this is obviously a pretty big week coming up for you guys on the football side of things. So I feel like there's plenty to talk about. But just to start, I actually wanted to ask you about that recent fan interaction and what caused you to want to have so many Q&As and be so responsive.
We've talked about one of the things that I think is hard in college athletics, like things behind the scenes are going so fast. You've got a fan base that not everybody's engaged at the same time in the same place, and sometimes it's hard, when you're trying to share messages, whether it's about success or projects going on or just updates or promotions. There's so much that we have going on behind the scenes that people typically just don't know or aware of, and so one of the things I've always felt as an athletic director is important is just trying to ensure really accuracy, but also more importantly transparency. Like I want fans to understand some of the why behind our direction and where we're going. Not everybody's going to always agree with what we do, which is fair, but I also think just for the people behind the scenes here who are putting in hard work every day, from our marketing team, our events and facilities staff, our communications team, like there's a lot of activity that's going on that's not always visible to people, and I want to make sure there are opportunities for us to shine a light on the great work that those people are doing every day.
Absolutely. And what kind of response have you kind of seen from that community?
Yeah, I think it's been good for the most part. I think the people who genuinely want to engage with us and who are supportive and who want to continue to get behind the mean green, whether it's coming to games or writing checks or inviting people to come on board. I think the response on that side's been great. I think you're always going to have a segment who is, primarily there to critique and criticize, which again is fair. We're in college athletics, and it is a visible platform we have here. But the response has been overwhelming. And again, I think the opportunities for us to 3 or 4 times a year open things up and really do a little bit deeper dive and answer questions is important, and we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, based on some of those critiques and comments, what do you think are the biggest priorities or biggest worries from that community?
Listen, I think our biggest challenge at North Texas in general, and I've laid it out. I think we've got to get our programs to where we're competing in the top end of the American Conference. Like our goal is to win championships. Our goal is to give student athletes a championship level experience, and so part of that's hiring the right coaches, capitalizing on momentum, making sure we're resourcing teams to be successful in the American. We're only in year 3. It's a process. The gap between where we were in Conference USA and the American is significant. And so that's not going to happen overnight. We've got to chip away at our revenues. You look just 3 years ago when I got into this job, our athletic budget was roughly $44.5 million. We're going to be over $56 million budget this year. So we are making progress in securing new funding and new resources. And the second, to me, the most important thing that we have at North Texas, we just have to engage more people. Given our alumni base and the size of that resource there, it gives us so many advantages if we can mobilize it. And, I have a lot of fans will ask me, say, hey, I want to do more. What's most important? Do I need to give to the scholarship fund? Do I need to buy season tickets? Do I need to give to capital campaigns? And I tell fans and alums and donors, whatever you're passionate about, that's where I want you to give. Like, let us put the pieces of the puzzle together, but we're going to be successful when people feel good about the investment that they're making in the things that matter to them. And there's just a lot of great opportunity, a lot of momentum. We're seeing significant number of new donors step up. You look at our athletic center expansion project that we just finished funding on, $12 million raise, which is the largest we've ever undertaken in a facility in athletics history. And a majority of those gifts came from people that 24 months ago were not engaged with our athletic program. And so kudos to our development team for finding new leads and new resources. But one of the best things we found is people inviting their teammates, their classmates that they went to school with. Like peer-to-peer is always the best way to re-engage people. And so we've had a lot of people step up just to try to pull more people into the boat. And the better we do that, the more opportunities that'll unlock for UNT in the future.
Based on that increase in revenue, like you said, when you first got here to now, just what are some examples of how that revenue is being allocated? How does that help you guys, in terms of what you guys can actually do around here?
When we made the decision to go into the American, it was before revenue sharing and NIL was even a thing. So, our plan was solely around how do we get our resources to the top third, and that's staffing, that's all of our support areas and the people that service the larger enterprise. And so we track all that stuff, and so our goal is to push that as quickly as we can to get into that top third. You layer in a couple years in NIL and now revenue sharing, like we've kind of had to hit pause on some things. And I tell people all the time, it doesn't mean we're going to stop doing certain things, but you certainly have to be able to pivot and be able to position. It's a business, like you have to position your business for success. And so some of the things, we haven't grown some areas as fast as we wanted to because we're having to shift that money now to be able to recruit and retain player talent, but we also are still having to do things to try to recruit and retain the talent that services the things we do here. And so it's all a big part of the puzzle, but certainly success helps you kind of fast track some of those areas, and it's why winning programs, you generally see upticks in ticket sales and donations in the year and certainly the year following. And so we're hopeful we can continue to push the success envelope here in the sports that carry that visibility and see if we can continue to chip away at our goals getting into that top third.
Absolutely. Speaking on this football season, it's obviously going pretty well for you guys, 5-0 to start. And currently based on that G6 playoff spot, there's a genuine, knock on wood, obviously, but, competing for a lot of different things, on the line. Just how special of a season has it been in your eyes?
I think it's been great. I think the thing I'm most proud of is you look at what, when Coach Morris got here, you look at where the progress we've made over the last 2 years. Like I know the results weren't always where we wanted them over the last 2 years, but we were competing against the top teams in this league in an environment, to be honest, where some of the teams above us are spending in football alone 5, 6, 7 times the amount of money that we have in what we're utilizing in revenue share and NIL, and we're still finding ways to attract talent and compete. And so I'm super proud of that group because I know they put a ton of work and been very intentional in how they've gone about building this program. And I think for fans that we can all get frustrated with kind of what the college experience has become, the turnover. You don't get to know players as well. It's a lot of movement. Like all of that can be frustrating, but it's still a tremendous opportunity and for the coaches who can adapt and kind of find what's that new level of talent that is available and can compete at this level. I think we've done a really good job being able to dial in our strategy there. And it's just fun. It's fun to see the student athletes who have been a part of this thing the last 2 years as we built to taste this success. And now we've got to capitalize on some opportunities ahead. We have some big games coming up, starting with South Florida in a couple of weeks, and we need to continue to drive for capturing as many of these wins and riding this momentum as far as we can.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned the increase in revenue from when you got here to now, and then obviously the increased success of that football team. I don't think it's any secret that college football is a big portion of generating that revenue. Just what is that kind of relationship in your eyes?
No, we've got to leverage the platform for the betterment of the institution and our programs. And, I tell people all the time, when you simply look at the metrics and the data behind it, like, moving into the American Conference where we have an exclusive across the board deal with ESPN, that's significant. And now we can leverage the biggest sports platform in the world. It's easy for fans to find every game we have. They don't have to question, what network, what streaming service are we on, and so the visibility of that is significant. And so to capitalize on success, even this year, I think we've had a couple of games already that originally we thought were going to be on ESPN Plus, but because of our success, ended up getting picked up for linear broadcasts. Like that's a huge opportunity for us. And when you look at the landscape of engaging alumni, that's a part of the equation. We need people to turn their TVs on. People pay attention. Future opportunities around realignment and things for UNT are going to ebb and flow as good as we can capitalize on getting people to put their TV sets and turn the game on. And so I think you capture these moments where you now have this platform of ESPN. You're trying to engage fans and you are having success. Like, it's a great time to be at UNT.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned that fast start that football's up to right now, and that's one of those sports with the highest visibility. Just what do you kind of imagine, in terms of the benefits from, North Texas competing for the American Conference Championship or that previous aforementioned, playoff spot possibly?
Listen, I think winning's hard, and I think the one thing at North Texas, and being completely honest, like, we haven't consistently been able to do that. And I will acknowledge, I think in today's environment with player movement and just the ebb and flow of talent, like it's harder to sustain success than it ever has been in college athletics. And so I think when you get individuals like Coach Morris and a number of our other coaches who really, I feel, do a great job of creating a culture that people want to be a part of. We know we may not have student athletes for 3 or 4 years anymore, but for the year or two we can have them, make sure we're pouring into them and that they're getting a well-rounded experience. And so, I'm just extremely proud of our staff who have been able to kind of reinvent what that looks like so that we can continue to push ahead.
Absolutely. All right. So, despite, that undefeated start, against South Alabama, I don't think the turnout was as people expected. The number was 16,575. It was lower than any attendance, last season, and the lowest since 2023. You had a tweet saying that was a little disappointing that to quote you, you're not getting more people to be a part of history. What is kind of your outlook on that fan attendance, and then what you guys need to do in terms of getting more people in those seats?
Listen, we're trying everything we can. I mean, we're discounting tickets. We've targeted more groups and more outbound sales than we ever have. We've got more resources allocated to, reaching out to, we've had a lot of good corporate partners buy group tickets. We're reaching out to HOAs and communities in and around Denton where there's a mass amount of people that, we're trying to capture. Campus and SGA have been phenomenal in helping us try to get students and the things that we're hearing from students on why either maybe they want to come hang out and not come in the stadium, but how can we get them in to support the team? And listen, at the end of the day, when you have success, like, we can always find excuses for, why we don't want to jump in yet. And I get that. I mean, it's easy to say, well, we've been here before and it lets us down every time. But until you can get consistent, we're going to show up and we're going to support and give this thing a chance. Like, it's really hard to do that when you can't. And I think the biggest thing I tell people too, we look back historically over the last 10 years of data around ticket sales. Our third game dip in attendance is the biggest dip every year, regardless of whether we're good or bad. So, part of that is a trend here that we've got to work on trying to turn around. But I think the bigger piece of this is we've got to get to a place when you look at the schools like Boise State, you look even in our conference at East Carolina, South Florida, the last couple of years, UTSA, like, they've built up season ticket bases that are double and triple what we have at UNT. the season ticket conundrum, people say, well, I don't know if I can make it to all games. I don't know if I can make it and leverage it all the time. You may not be able to, but if you buy just one season ticket, that gets counted at every game we have. And so when your baseline at North Texas is you're starting with 5,000 tickets that you can count, you're having to move a lot to get to 16. Well, if you're at a place like at some of those other schools I mentioned where you have 10 to 15 or 20,000 season tickets sold, that's what you're getting to announce, and that's what you've got in support every game. And so like there is a part of this, like we've got to continue to chip away at growing the season ticket base because it does minimize the impact of a game like that. But two, we've got to figure out the solution to just get people to want to be here and step up. We're trying everything, pull every lever we can. We're talking with a lot of people to get feedback, and we're going to continue to chip away. But at some point, you got to just say, am I willing to support my school and be a part of an exciting time, or am I just going to stay on the sidelines and continue to wait to jump in? And I think we're seeing a lot of people start to jump in with us, which has been really exciting.
You mentioned some of the specific reservations people have for season tickets at least, but what are just some of the obstacles that people are giving you in terms of feedback about why they don't want to show up to the games as much or as frequently?
I mean, hey, listen, we hear everything. I mean, and you don't have to engage people. Like you see the banter on social media, but like people gripe about kick times, people gripe about the day we play, people gripe about it's too hot and the weather's not great. Like we can come up. And for a lot of our fans, to be honest, living in DFW, like you're looking at 2 to 2.5 hours of your times in a car, and so that's a commitment. You've got, having had a young family, there's a period of time for a lot of our fan base. Saturday mornings are tough because my kids are in activities, and but the point being, in those situations, if you do have season tickets, and we've got a lot of people who do. I know a lot of our donors who, when they can't be here, they're giving their tickets to somebody else to go fill that seat. And like, that's a mentality and a commitment that I have a ton of respect for, because like, if we can multiply that and we can multiply that mindset across our alumni base for people to say, I'll buy 2 season tickets, whether I go to a game or not, and then I'll leverage that to give away to people who may want to take advantage. I have yet on tickets that I have, putting them out in my own neighborhood association, I have yet to have tickets I didn't use. Like there's always somebody out there that even last second says, I'd love to take my family and enjoy a game. And if we can get to the place where we make the commitment to financially support it with season tickets, and then people use that to then invite and pull people in, that's the quickest way to gain new fans. And so that's where we spend a lot of our time and energies. How can we replicate that and encourage fans to mimic a lot of the behaviors that some of our most loyal donors are doing and that have been a part of the solution in years past? Yeah,
you mentioned that in addition to that, you're pulling all the levers, as you said. I think you guys dropped a ticket sale today, right? We bundled the UTSA and this one and the USF one.
Yeah.
Just what do you imagine it'll turn out to be, this next Friday?
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I mean, I do think just the feel around this game, there is a high energy, there's a high level of engagement just on social media with our alumni base and the people who follow our social accounts. We're seeing pretty significant returns. I mentioned a lot of marketing. I think some people, we're in the midst of a transition of where people were used to, you either had to buy a ad in the paper, you had to go pay for expensive television ads, to you go buy billboards, and we're still doing some of that to some degree, but those are really hard when you are trying to maximize every marketing dollar to understand what your return on investment is. And we've seen significant returns utilizing very targeted digital marketing platforms where we can select the demographics, we can select the people that have an affinity towards sports, or if we're running some promo, an affinity like the pro day we did with the mascots and the local pro teams last week, we can target audiences that are into pro sports within a certain radius. And the market average, they say on those, when you spend $1, if you can get anywhere north of $5 or $6 return for every dollar spent, successful. We've had a couple of campaigns this year where we've pushed $12 to $15 per dollar we spent, and we've had a couple that were in the $30, $35. So we're trying to lean more into strategic marketing, and that can be frustrating to people who want to see it and want to see things, but the reality is when you're fighting for people's attention, you have to go to the people that are interested in what you're doing, and the best way to figure out that return is through this particular strategy. So we'll dig into that some more, and we leverage. Campus has been a phenomenal resource. I mean, we leverage Grandscape over in Frisco and the billboards and the marketing agreement we have there. Our partnerships with, the Cowboys, the Rangers. I mean, they've been, great in helping us when we're, trying to either reach certain audiences or leverage their expertise. And so we've got a lot of positive momentum in DFW. We're just going to keep chipping away, and if something works, we'll do it again. If not, we'll move to the next thing on the list.
Absolutely. You just answered one of the couple tweets that I have actually printed out for you, because I did notice the marketing thing. Do you know which particular campaign was so profitable for you guys, or which demographic was able to produce that result?
It's interesting because it kind of depends on, what type of platform. Like, we've seen a lot of our season ticket push, to be honest. Some of the bigger returns we've had have been around our season ticket promotions we've done. A lot of this new technology that we have, we're tinkering with. Like, you have a whole list of kind of profiles and things. Like, you can pick people who are pet lovers, people who are into, anime. Like, you can really get to a layer of really targeting your audience. And so, our marketing team is tweaking that a little bit every time we utilize it, just so we can try to dial in exactly, where we see the biggest returns.
Absolutely. And speaking of marketing, I wanted to hand you this, obviously. This is kind of the big, advertising angle that you guys have had recently. You guys are having the blackout games, so you have the I don't even know what you guys call that, the Black Ops version of the Eagle.
Oh, yeah, the Denton Desert. I mean, I love the Denton Desert theme right now.
Absolutely. What was the conversation like to lean into that direction, right? It could just happen on social media, and then, the decision to keep leaning into it, as the games continue.
You know what? Hey, listen, I think part of that is marketing. Sometimes you can sit back we do it every year, multiple times a year, sit around a table and we try to think through what are the greatest marketing ideas, slogans, taglines. And you know what? Sometimes they land in your lap. And if you're just so married to, well, this is what we were going to do, you can miss a window of really people thinking, okay, this is kind of fun and crazy. And so when this came through and you had the opportunity for people to assume, because we're in Texas, we've got oil wells and cactus and, a desert, like, it was kind of a fun. And then we had one of our, had a young lady who created this, our Desert Eagle, with the cowboy hat, and that thing kind of has taken off. So we'll lean into that as long as people find it fun and entertaining and have a good time with it.
Do you know who was kind of the first person to bring up, leaning into that direction?
No, I mean, I think our team, once it just kind of took off, it was, quickly sparked conversations on, I can remember us talking about it and quickly said, hey, let's lean into it. Let's see how far we can keep traction going here. And really, marketing, sometimes you can have a great idea, but if it doesn't really land or stick, you just gotta move on. And this is one, though, that I think with our fan base, as long as they're connecting with it and it's capturing, engagement online and communication online, and I think you want to run that thing out as long as you can. So as long as fans are having a good time with us, we'll keep it up.
Excellent. What are your thoughts on the bird? I can take the name back for you.
Hey, I love it. I think it's amazing, to be honest, with what AI's got right now. Like the things you can just prompt in a couple of sentences and you get back at you is always good. So
that's the next marketing question I had for you. Yep. The Stone Cold celebration has been a big thing the last couple of years, and I hear that there have been attempts to reach out to his team and all that. I'm just genuinely curious what the progress is on that.
Yeah, that's one that's a work in progress. Certainly, I think I'm biased for sure, but I think our turnover celebration is probably the best in all of college football. Like, it connects with a part of our past. It connects with something that is just a social icon and, one of the all-time sports greats in WWE. And so, We have had communication in the past with Steve and continuing to try to reach out. His calendar is extremely busy. I mean, certainly previous years he had a lot going on between filming stuff and still having a foot in wrestling. But we're going to continue to try to work to find a time to bring him back, and would love to have him engage with us and be a part of taking this to even another level. But it's certainly garnered a lot of good conversation and a lot of fun, particularly for our team, but I think our fans as well.
How was it for you? Was it your idea to go out there and do the celebration yourself in front of the student section?
Hey, I've told our marketing team, we talk a lot. Like anything that they think they can leverage me for to get students or create excitement, I'm for. And now they went over the top. Like when I imagined doing the Stone Cold celebration, I knew I wanted the belt, and I imagined too. But they went and got me a nice vest, and they branded the vest out. And the only thing that I will say. Shannon came in and she said, "Do you have jean shorts?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I haven't worn jean shorts since I was in high school." And so when I went back home, I told my wife, I was like, "There's going to be an Amazon package arrive. It's going to be my jean shorts." She was like, "Oh, no, you didn't." I was like, "Oh, yeah, I did." So when I got them, she said, "Well, you need to cut the bottom off of those, make them a little rugged and look like Stone Cold." And I said, "I'm not cutting the bottom." They had a little roll-up thing where it's got a good design on the inside. I said, "I might wear these again." She was like, "That ain't happening." So we had a good time with it, and I think anything, we continue to have good student turnouts and crowds, and we set some student records down the road. We might see the costume out again.
Just how fun was it for you out there doing that, energy-wise, atmosphere?
No, it's fun. Like, listen, I think one of the best things, like right before we did that, we were giving away pizzas. We had ordered 300 pizzas for the student section, and we're out on the tailgate, trying to get people in. And I love engaging with our students. I mean, it makes me feel young again when you can get in the middle of them and they're excited and having a good time. And so, but super appreciative. I do want to give a shout out to student government. SGA has been phenomenal, just working with us to try to do everything we can to make sure people are aware of what's available and fun and the things we have to give to students on a game day, and they've been a great partner in all of this.
Absolutely. I'm going to move to possibly a little more serious of a topic, but funny enough, it's one where you make a joke about it. But obviously retention is something that you mentioned earlier as one of the biggest priorities for any college program. Right now, Coach Morris has been brought up in a couple of different coaching searches, whether it be Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Arkansas less so obviously, but just what is your outlook on retaining, your best coaches, including one that's on, a 5-0 streak right now?
Listen, at our level, if we're hiring great people, they're gonna have opportunities. I mean, and I'll be honest, like for fans that can be frustrating, but I'd much rather have programs that are churning out quality coaches and coaches that win and coaches that turn around programs and coaches that have reputations for, being able to navigate a really difficult landscape right now. And so I can tell you I've got a ton of respect. When I got this job, Eric was the first hire I made. And so to come into this together and for us to go through the changes that have transpired, like I just appreciate his heart for working together to make this place better. Like he cares deeply about North Texas. He cares about the relationship component and what he's building within his locker room. But the thing I can tell you, it's easy in this environment to point at whether you're an athletic director or you're a football coach and say, we don't have A, B, C, and D, and everybody else does. And I can tell you his mindset is we talk through those things. We're on the same page with kind of how we're tracking towards progress, and he knows we're in the boat together trying to find solutions. And I'm just super appreciative for him and a number of other coaches on our staff who they're solution-oriented coaches. They're not coming into our office expecting us to solve every one of their problems. It truly is a great partnership. So I'm hopeful that we'll get to a place this year we'll be able to put something in front of Coach Morris and do our best to keep him here for several more years to come.
Absolutely. Eric took that picture from you. It was a funny joke, though.
Oh, yeah.
How much more money? Yeah. So here, take that paper from me.
All right.
Thank you. I'll wrap up with just one more question. The Q&A ended up talking a lot about, I think, the future of North Texas. I think it's a good note to end on as well. Particularly on developing out Bonnie Bray and developing a lot of different expansions. Let me get some particular quotes here. Let's see. A lot of questions were about it, so I actually have a couple for you. But speaking on that plan that was introduced in 2018, just how would you kind of describe verbally that vision of fully building out what could be built here?
I think for us, obviously, we've had a plan for what we could potentially develop over here. Basketball is one that, a basketball arena where you've got premium opportunities. People don't realize in college athletics, premium's really where you drive, especially if you have a successful program. It's where people want to be. You want to have a place where people level up. Maybe they come in as a general season ticket reserve seat holder, then they want to get to a club level, or they want to get to a suite, or they want to get courtside. And that's where, as you have success, those premium areas are where you really drive. That and season tickets are really where you drive your ability to retain coaches. If you're not moving more premium and you don't have a lever to pull to either raise prices and capture more revenue during years of success, or if you don't have more season ticket holders coming in that become your foundation budget-wise, it gets really hard to figure out pathways to retain coaches. And so it's a huge part. So basketball, we knew, was always a piece. I think for us, the athletic center expansion's been critical because, for not just for our current student athletes and staff, but when you look at opportunities to grow down the road. Baseball comes up all the time. We've got a couple of other women's programs we would likely add when baseball comes in. We literally do not have space. If you go over to the academic center at night, most people would say it's not conducive for quality academic work because we will have student athletes on some nights. Every lab is full. People in the hallways sitting down just to study and try to find space. The service component of what we do, we're tapped out at the 340 student athletes we serve. So if you're going to add 70-ish more, you're going to have a facility that does that. And so, phase 2 for us here is going to be critical. But then really in this new world of revenue generation, we're fortunate in that we've got, I could see us adding sports at some point down the road, but we're not going to add a significant number of sports. And so the question is then, how can we leverage an asset we have here, which is a lot of land on the same side of 35? We're not tapping into things that campus needs it for. But how can we generate enough volume and type of things in this footprint that get more people to realize what's here? I'm shocked that even people from North Texas who have not been back to a game, they haven't been to DACU, and they don't even realize what this is today. But if you can generate, whether it's restaurants or retail or just an influx of things that will get more foot traffic in and around here, all of a sudden, not only is it giving you revenue, it's funneling just eyeballs and awareness around the facilities where we're calling people to come participate and be a part of. So, we want to build out something that makes sense. We don't want it to feel like it doesn't fit, but you're beginning to see now that Bonnie Bray is expanded and you're seeing what's happening on the 35 corridor here. We've got a good opportunity here in a pretty visible and primary real estate when you look at what it would cost somebody to go and find land where we're at. Let's leverage what we have and pull in the right partners to maximize that opportunity. And and I think athletically there's always things. We volleyball's one. Our gym's phenomenal home court, but we need to address a bigger facility for volleyball. Softball, we've continued to make improvements. The next phase after we get the clubhouse done will be really being able to build out seating to where if we get our program to a place where we can get into a regional and host a regional, you want to be able to host a regional. And we feel our teams can do that. DFW can handle that. And so everything we've got on the map is pretty intentional around how can we continue to elevate the visibility of our successful programs, and figure out some new creative revenue generation to fuel what we need in the future.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for your time. That's
Yeah,
all I had.
awesome.
Paper type of it.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Seriously.